Hey everyone, and welcome back to the show. Of course, another day, another Activision Blizzard news story, because Overwatch has actually had its upcoming content plans be changed based on the current Blizzard situation, and World of Warcraft is even getting some additional changes, all because of one man, the actions of which we currently have absolutely zero idea. It is all rather interesting. So what blew the lid in all of this was the Overwatch team making their own statement, and to basically cut the whole statement, to cut a long story short, the character of Jesse McCree, named after Blizzard developer Jesse McCree, is no longer going to be called Jesse McCree, and that's because Jesse McCree was found at the Cosby Suite. Maybe. Here's the deal. We know that Jesse McCree, Louis Barrega, and Jonathan LeCraft are all gone. They've all been terminated from Blizzard Entertainment. Now, it's very strange, or not strange, because I don't think they have... I mean, should we expect them to just go and issue a public statement of what all of these people have done exactly? I mean, I don't really know if that's procedure, but at least we can assume the policies under which these people were terminated, where, of course, the big man himself, Bobby Kotick, said that anybody who engaged in activities that breach their, their sort of code of conduct, those people are going to be terminated, or, appropriate action is going to be taken, but that additionally, people who shielded people, managers who looked the other way, things like that, that those people would also go. Now, I don't know about Louis Barrega in the context of the Cosby Suite, but Jesse McCree is someone who was pictured at the Cosby Suite. Another man pictured at the Cosby Suite, of course, is Corey Stockton, who was wrapped up in that entire thing with Ethan Gatch's reporting on Kotaku, where, it's the Alex Afrasabi personal Facebook, where Corey Stockton says, it's the greatest group chat in the history of mankind, and then the group chat is maybe a bit iffy feeling, a bit iffy feeling, let's just say. Now, the funny thing there is we don't know a single thing about Corey Stockton, other than his Twitter profile doesn't exist anymore. So we have no idea if he is still at the company, but we do know that Barrega, LeCraft, and McCree have all been removed from Blizzard Entertainment, and that the character of McCree in Overwatch is going to be renamed. Now, this ended up being a bit of a tricky situation for the Overwatch team, because they're saying here that they actually had a narrative arc planned for September that was going to be supported with a new story and new game content, and that McCree was a core part of said content. Now, that to me is even interesting because, let's be real, Overwatch 2 should be out already, probably, and I think we all agree that at the very least it should have been out end of 2021, but obviously that game's been taking a far longer time to get out of the oven, which makes you think maybe it's a 2022 ordeal, and then you sort of have to think, well, maybe with Overwatch being a bit in maintenance mode for a while, they realized they needed a bit more content to actually carry them through into the new game, and maybe that's why they planned this content that was originally going to come out in September. But no, that is being delayed because they need to remove McCree. Now, not remove, rename. Now, renaming McCree is going to have quite an impact on their pipeline, Voice lines, things like that, those are going to have to be redone. So that is going to delay this content. However, they have said that, they're delaying that content because they want the name change for McCree to be a part of that story arc and to actually be there. But there is going to be a new free-for-all map coming out in September instead. And they've said that going forward, in-game characters will no longer be named after real employees, and they'll be a lot more thoughtful and discerning about adding real-world references in future Overwatch content. Now, this also does impact World of Warcraft because of Gisera of what was originally pronounced McCree? Macari? It's kind of weird. So this area, which in the modern pronunciation is pronounced Macari, is a place that, the Draenei in World of Warcraft that they come from, and that character, Gisera of Macari, which I believe was a character added in the Burning Crusade, that was a reference to Jesse McCree. So now for World of Warcraft, according to the Washington Post have said that a Blizzard spokesperson said that all references to Jesse McCree will be removed. And it also referenced other Fired staff like the Craft and Barriga. So World of Warcraft changes. They'll probably have to update the map and change the name of that zone, which in itself could be a bit tricky if they have the likes of voice acting be tied into that, because Macari is said multiple times in the game. And interestingly, one of the Blizzard employees, who themselves wasn't particularly comfortable with there being an actual employee reference in the game world, she supposedly drove it being pronounced Macari in the voice acting and so forth that happened with the Legion expansion. So it's all very, very interesting stuff. And I would definitely say, yeah, don't have references to your devs be all inside your game. I would go further, actually, and, other than the likes of, say, things like a memorial for Wreckful or a memorial for Haven, which they should absolutely do, I really don't think community members should be referenced in the game either. And I know that could be a controversial statement. I actually have friends or people, acquaintances, whatever, who do have World of Warcraft references, and I mean absolutely no shade to them, but frankly, and it's why, if Blizzard was to, I mean, they would never do it because I've probably talked so much, about them, if they were to put a reference to me in the game, I would probably, my response would be that I really appreciate the thought, but that it is against my wishes, because I never want somebody to log into World of Warcraft to see an NPC and to think, oh, that's someone outside of the game. Oh, that's a reference to that person on Twitter. Oh, that's a reference to that YouTuber. To me, that is awful for game immersion, and it should not be what goes on. And I think here we're seeing another little dimension to that, where if you can't really trust some of those individuals to act in a decent manner, you end up in a situation like this. Now, what is interesting, if I hop over to the tweets of Mr. Ian Bates, who I think many of us will remember as the famous red shirt guy of BlizzCon fame, he says, the McCree situation has the strangest backstory to it. McCree started off as a piece of concept art for a cancelled StarCraft MMO that was replaced by Titan and then Overwatch. They liked the character so much they wanted to keep the design but couldn't think of a name. While brainstorming what would be the best cowboy name, an employee pointed out that Jesse McCree sounded like an awesome name for a cowboy, and everyone agreed, and they got the actual Jesse McCree to sign over the rights for his name. And as he says, so much hassle could have been avoided if they were able to think of a name before the employee suggested Jesse McCree. In fairness to that employee, Jesse McCree totally is a great cowboy name, but, obviously, it's not really the way to do things. Now, there is a quote provided to the gaming outlet Kotaku. We will be reviewing the real-world references currently used in our games and making decisions based on how they represent core values in our games. As I said earlier, I think memorials, awesome, very good. Robin Williams, Wreckful, that's great stuff. I would just say, if you've got a bunch of community members, bunch of Blizzard employees, even just from a creative perspective, I am against those being in the game because it's too noticeable. I mean, even if I go and, I love Lord of the Rings, some of my favorite movies ever, by far, absolutely. But there is that weird little thing whenever I see the director cameo, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's Peter Jackson, awesome, he made the movie, he's a really cool dude, I like him. And suddenly, I've been taken a little bit out of Middle-earth. Now, it's pretty okay in Lord of the Rings because it's tiny little cameos, and really you'll only recognize that if you go and you look up trivia. But there are times within some games where it's very obviously a staff reference, and I just think that's an immersion breaking thing, and it would go against sort of design philosophies that I would agree with, I'd say. Now, what's funny about the new map, the map that they're putting in for free-for-all, Malvento, was on the PTR, and it was seemingly intended to be released in August following the usual PTR cycles, but it disappeared entirely and silently. Now it's resurfaced, replacing the release of narrative content. There's maybe some thought here, is it a conspiracy? Did they know they would have to delay content and they did this with this map? Who knows? I mean, I'm sure for the Overwatch players, they're just happy that they know more content's coming and there's a map coming soon. Now, there's one final aspect before we have a chat. That is the stuff from Jessica Gonzalez, who tweeted this on behalf of an anonymous employee. Anyhow, long story short, as we talked, they told me how just 5-ish days ago, there was a group of Blizzard employees they were serving that were loudly talking about how stupid the walkout was and how much nonsense all this is. Just a total disregard for our concerns and the stories of those who have been hurt by all of this. Like, I know Sea-Level is trying to sweep this under the rug and treat us like children who just don't understand the world, but to hear that, at least some of our co-workers on campus right now are doing the same and willing to be so loud about it in public is just depressing. I'm angry and disappointed, and I don't know what to do about it. I mean, yeah, you know, that's a situation where you're going to have a varied set of perspectives, and that will range from people who are very outraged at what's going on to people who, realistically, are going to say to themselves, it was a bunch of nerds with a bunch of money, boys will be boys. Now, we can all disagree with that statement, sure, but it just does go to show that, at least from this little anecdotal report, that, I mean, you know, this is a screenshot of something that a Blizzard employee has tweeted, so, you know, it's not going to say it's the best source thing in the universe, and that this is emblematic of a large issue at Blizzard Entertainment, but I mean, certainly this is not going to be a nice thing for Blizzard employees to see. But at the very least, even if they're not happy at what Activision Blizzard corporate leadership is doing, at least Ybarra and O'Neill joined in that walkout, seemed to show some understanding and solidarity, and seemed to be making steps. And I've heard some good vibes about those people. So that's where we're at.
It's an interesting one because I've seen so many people like complain about how this doesn't matter, how this doesn't mean anything, that they're changing the name. But then I saw one Blizzard employee, or I think it was a Blizzard employee anyway, say that not all good things that happen in the wake of controversy are marketing conspiracies. Mm-hmm. Where it seems to be that this was an initiative, kind of like how it was initially brought to light by those the casters for the Overwatch League, referring to him as Cowboy instead of McCree that weekend as soon as the allegations came out. So it seems like it was like a kind of mixed community and developer push that not necessarily is like an edict from like on high to do this because it'll look good for everyone. But it appears to be a lot of the Overwatch team were like, okay, we really don't feel happy with this. Especially because a lot of those developers at the Overwatch team wouldn't actually really have had much to do with Jesse McCree. Because Jesse McCree has worked, you know, on Diablo. Yeah. I mean, clearly because of the references in World of Warcraft, you know, there's at least some intercommunication. But if you're like someone new to Overwatch who is, you know, maybe you're just from Toys for Bob and you're on Overwatch, or maybe you've just never had an interaction with McCree because he's in a different part of the building, you're just kind of, it's not going to be like, this is, you know, the close Blizzard friend McCree. It's going to be, this is just a name that evokes a bit of in me. Yeah. So why not, like, can we get rid of this, please? And maybe like the top are going, but it's McCree's, okay, whatever.
Yeah, so what's pointed out here by Annabelle, who is not a Blizzard employee, but is a writer for Blizzard Watch, which is, like a fan site for, for the likes of World of Warcraft, who said, for the people who are just kind of saying, it doesn't matter what, she's saying it means that for the people who actually worked in the game and maybe got harassed by him, they don't have to constantly hear his name. Now, I don't know if she knows things that we don't know. As far as I'm aware, we're not aware of specific allegations against Jesse McCree. But if there is a situation where it's widely known within the building that he was doing shady stuff, I mean, do you want your devs to be kind of working on a character that's his namesake all the time on that? At the very least, it sends a message that, they're not particularly cool with, the things that he did. Now, I will definitely say I give both sides credit here. Of course. Because I think you can totally see why they would want to remove the game. I think you can also totally see people's criticisms of like, this is just a token gesture. What does this actually mean if the top corporate people are still being a pack of dickheads and, the forced arbitration clauses are still going on and all of that. And I totally do agree with those people as well. I actually think that it's possible to agree with both sides here. Like, it's not the biggest gesture in the universe, but you can see why they would do it and why some people would appreciate that, even if you don't. And absolutely, I think we all agree, doesn't take away from the actual heart of the issue, which still is an issue. Yeah, I mean, that's what I think is important about the Blizzard employee saying it's not a marketing conspiracy. It's
the action of the developers internally. Because you look at Blizzard as a company, like, I mean, even looking at Activision Blizzard and then looking at Blizzard, there's a very diverse set of what they actually are responsible for. So you look at Blizzard and then you look at the teams. And obviously the Overwatch team, you know, especially realistically, the Overwatch team is going to have nothing to do with how that works. Like, there's nothing they could have reasonably done, assuming that they are largely physically separate in their own offices. They're not going to have known anything about whatever someone in the Diablo or Warcraft team has done and act on it, unless there's interdepartmental communications on that front. Largely, they're different teams with different responsibilities, and this team is doing what they can to feel better. It's not necessarily, this isn't an act of Blizzard. This is the act of the Overwatch team. And it's being able to logically separate those in your head is where you can see, well, this is a good thing, but it's not enough. But they couldn't have done anything, so it's the best they could do.
Yeah.
It's up to Blizzard leadership to do the rest.
Even for a quick thing on on the leadership side, okay, so at least from what I've noticed, when it comes to the art side of things, generally it is a lot more of a gender mix than it is in, say, the pure programming side.
Yeah.
Right? So there's going to be a bunch of animators, modelers, riggers, etc., who are probably women who are new enough to the industry, going in there. And let's just say it is the case that Jesse McCree went to the Cosby Suite, maybe did some groping, maybe some bad things happen, and it's broadly known within Blizzard from a leadership perspective, and everybody knows that it's, this character is the namesake of this guy and he did those things. Do you think the staff are going to be doing their best work and are going to be the most fired up to do cool stuff about the character McCree, when in the back of their head they always know that that's what was up with McCree?
Yeah.
There's even a sort of funny thing I noticed here. So, WoW Tales, if we actually did, if we were able to launch WoW Tales and, because WoW Tales was okay, totally okay, legally speaking. It was in a good position from the perspective of Blizzard's official add-on policy. But the lawyers kind of came in with some additional shit, which is a pity because, frankly, I do think that WoW Tales kind of knocked the socks out of some of the stuff they were doing, officially Blizzard. But, of course, Marshall McCree. We voice-acted Marshall McCree, and we voice-acted lines that, because we rewrote the script of Elwyn Forest pretty much completely, which is quite funny. Because, if we had done that, then we too would have got a little bit of a taste of that, having to go in, change up those voice lines. But for other characters, there's the city of Macari. There's Jessariah McCree. There's Jessup McCree. There's Marshall McCree. There's Jenny McCree. There's Jessara of Macari. And then for Jonathan LeCraft, there's Crafticus Mindbender, Torturer LeCraft, Jonathan Lee Craft, and Senior Scrivener Barriga. And probably you're all going to be changed.
Yep. I mean, I think the quote that Kotaku got from the Blizzard spokesman saying that they're going to revisit all of that makes sense to me, because obviously the original one that the Washington Post got was the Overwatch team saying we're going to think hard about what we do in future in the Overwatch team. But Kotaku's we're going to review all the real world references across Blizzard. So I imagine there'll be a lot of those gone.
Yeah. And look, I know that there's some people, the Blizzard they like is the Blizzard that's full of pop culture references and poop jokes and poop quests. I will definitely say that's never the Blizzard that I have liked creatively. I have liked I've liked Azeroth when it is a funky, fantasy setting. And I do like the odd little bit of, humor and edge, but not to the point where it yanks you out of the experience. These things, even from when I was a kid playing World of Warcraft, yanked me out of the experience a bit whenever I noticed them. So honestly, to me, even as a customer, hearing that World of Warcraft is probably going to have less references to the exterior world going forward, I would totally think that's a good thing. But versus most people, I have a far more hardline stance on that. I mean, even in the likes of FF14, if I see a quest that's a reference to a song,
oh, you're going to have a problem there.
Yeah, I know that, and I know that's a bit of a thing with me. But creatively, everything should be in universe in my mind, and that's just that. And then for all of the other aspects here, I mean, it's pretty obvious. You don't want memorials to these guys in the game if their actions don't represent the values of your company, the ideals of the worlds, and the stories that you're trying to make, like, it just does make sense, even if it doesn't solve the problem. So I think it's honestly simple, case closed. There need not be online drama and arguments here. I think everyone's right. Yeah, it really doesn't mean that much, but also you can see how it makes sense for leadership, and it just kind of is the correct move.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the point is, who does it really harm? The people who are harmed are people who will take time to get used to saying a different name for McCree, who maybe like the name for McCree but don't care about Blizzard internally or anything like that, which I imagine is a large swathe of people, but that's a very, very minor inconvenience for everyone aware of the situation to feel overly better. That's like, I guess that's kind of the point. But there's like one little last thing I'd like to add, and I think it's mostly to provide a little bit of clarity on like Jesse McCree and what he may or may not have done. And this is mostly from the perspective of, it seemed because he was removed the same time as Barriga, and that Jesse was a very like a Blizzard veteran of like 15 years, I think, and then Barriga was the lead of the team.
Yeah,
I think it's possible that it could be a matter of something in the Diablo team that, you know, could have been misbehavior from them, but it also very well could have been those two were seen as leaders in the Diablo team, and that's why they were removed with investigations. So it's the kind of thing where it's you know, you can look at it and like the simple answer is obviously McCree was up to something no good, but given their policy of removing leaders who impeded or like stopped things from being fixed, it could be that as well. I mean, that's also, you were saying we don't know about Corey Stockton. The last thing we heard was, because they were fired 2 weeks ago, Corey Stockton was under investigation at that point. So I think he was...
Sorry, that slipped my mind. Yeah,
I think he was suspended pending investigation. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, so rough stuff.
Indeed.
You reap what you sow.
Yep.
Seems so. There we go.
Yeah. I think there's actually. I think I'll try to end this with one very vaguely, maybe not super positive, but kind of positive.
That'll be a welcome break.
Yeah, and it'll be something we'll cover on this channel next week. But it's EA actually had a statement, or it was Chris Peruzzo, their EVP of Positive Play, Marketing and Commercial, spoke to GameIndustry.biz, and one of the things they were talking about is how come it's Ubisoft and Activision Blizzard, but not EA, that have been embroiled in this. And apparently EA have just been ahead of the curve. Yep. And getting rid of people that were problems.
This is stuff that we've heard rumblings of for quite a while.
Yeah.
Actually. And they don't always have a great rap from players. Absolutely. And I mean, hey, EA have fucked up developers and franchises that I very much have liked. So I do get that. Totally. Like, they've really fucked up franchises I've liked. Goddamn, why'd you only give them, 10 minutes to make Mass Effect 3? And, kill Vicarious Visions and all those terrible things. And crunch has absolutely been an issue, and QA is still a hellscape no matter where you go. But, it's decently known that they've taken these things seriously enough for a while.
Mm-hmm. So it's not all doom and gloom in the industry. It's mostly doom and gloom, but it's not all.
Yeah, we have the shining bastion of Electronic Arts. Ha-ha!
What an upside down world we're saying that.
Bit upside down. Yep. Yeah. So that's it for us. Thanks for tuning in. That is the most recent Blizzard Entertainment update. Hopefully the future ones are, good and good things happening, but I won't hold my breath. Okay, that's it. Take care. See you later.